Buckle up, sports fanatics. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast, your HQ for in-depth sports talk. Join host Kevin L. Warren and crew as they dissect the hottest stories, ignite debates, and bring you closer to the action. From locker room whispers to expert takes, we cover it all. It's game time, so strap in and grab a drink. The Sports Chasers Podcast starts right now.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? What's going on, everybody? It's another edition of the Sports Chasers Podcast. It's the interview sessions, man, where we sit down and talk to great people when it comes to the world of sports, in and around sports. And we have a treat for you today, man. We're going to talk about sports, technology, and some fitness and moving, man. But before we get into that, man, make sure you like, click, and subscribe to our channel. Make sure you hit the bells for all the notification. And those that are listening at the sound of my voice, you're driving along or you're in your shower, man. Hey, give us that 1, 2, 3, 4. What 5-star review? 5-star review. Lovers or haters, let us know how we're doing today. And we want y'all to let us know, man. We appreciate it. DA, what's up, man? How are you tonight, man? How's it going today, I should say? Happy Monday to you, sir. You're muted, sir. You're muted.
Happy Monday, sir. Yeah, busy, very busy, man.
Busy.
But I am anticipating a really good interview, so let's go.
Let's get it, man. So we're gonna just get it right on and popping, man. Let's give our on-air introduction to our guest for today. Chasers fans, today interview sessions is a special one. Our guest is a lifelong entrepreneur, technologist, martial artist, and coach, and the mind behind some of the most advanced sports and fitness technology out there. He's the CEO and founder of Asensei, a company that's changing the game in connected health and fitness with cutting-edge motion capture and movement recognition. Check this out, y'all. He's a 4th-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu and a holder of 2 second-degree black belts in karate. He's a bad dude, man. Don't mess with him. He's also one of the most successful coaches in British University sports history, leading Edinburgh University Karate Club to 10 straight, get this, national titles before continuing his impact from California. His career includes leadership at Adobe, Microsoft, working with clients like NASA, Nike, and the National Football League, Gatorade, and Sony, always pushing the boundaries of sports tech. Please welcome to the Sports Chasers Podcast, Mr. Steven Webster. Steven, how are you today? Let me give you some applause, sir.
You can do all my intros. I'll book you for all my intros. That was awesome.
Welcome today, man. How's it going, Steven? How's everything with you, man?
Things are good. Things are crazy. Things are busy, but that's a good sign. We're doing a lot of fun stuff. I'm looking forward to telling you about it.
Let's just get into it, man. How did you get? How did you get into this tech thing and movement and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I'll try and give you the short version of it, though. So, I grew up, like many of us, just grew up constantly playing sport, right? I grew up in Scotland, and so, we play a lot of soccer, a lot of football. Spent a lot of time on the water and in the water. But as you picked up, the thing I loved more than anything else, the thing I was disproportionately obsessed with was martial arts. I kind of grew up watching Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan and Van Damme, and spent my every single day pretty much practicing martial arts. First judo actually, then jiu-jitsu, and then karate, as you mentioned. So I've always enjoyed sport. I've always enjoyed competing, and then, as you mentioned, when I went to university, I studied in University of Edinburgh, and when I went to university, I wanted to play a sport. I wanted to compete. I didn't want to just be stuck in books all day, and so there were 2 karate clubs, and I asked which one wins the most medals. I was like, that's the one I want to compete for. And so that's what I did. I kind of competed and captained, and then ended up, as you mentioned,
that makes
coaching,
the most sense.
Edinburgh University.
And the winners go to winners. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
game knows game, right? It's And then from a tech perspective, I studied technology at university. I studied computer science and electronics. My dad was an engineer. He was an electronics engineer. He worked on fighter aircraft. So he always had this cool job. putting pilots in VR headsets, in the 80s, not now. And so I kind of always grew up around tech. And listen, I've just always been, I was always that kid that's like, how can I make my hockey goals of a spinning red light when the ball goes in the back of the net? How can I have my punch bag tell me how hard I hit it? So, fast forward, when I was at Microsoft, I just had this moment of, you know what, I think technology's got to a place that, we could have AI sports coaches. Like, if you were a VC and I was pitching you like slide one, I would be telling you, imagine, I imagine my son kind of, playing basketball and he's got the voice of Steph Curry in his ear, coaching them threes. That's the kind of future we wanted to will into existence.
I think that can happen. I'm almost sure it can happen. If we go back to what your father did with who would have thought, right, back in the 80s, putting helmets on heads that would turn. When they turn their heads, the gun would turn, the turrets would turn. Now it's
you can see through the floor. Yeah, it was like you weren't in an aircraft, right? You would just look down and see the sky beneath you.
And now it's crazy. You guys, the world has moved to a place where now if you turn your head, the whole weapon systems turn, and it gives you every 360 degrees.
Right.
So it's going to get to the point to where with sports, I think that would be a great, and I tell you why, it would be great to have that AI system, because then it would be, I know there would be variation, but there would be some standards that are set, right? So you're not parents, and I think we talked about this some else weeks ago, but parents would not be kind of stuck up or robbed by fake trainers, that aren't really saying, teaching your sons anything or daughters anything. I think the VR with the virtual reality would definitely have them sit in a place where it's going to be Steph Curry, something like that, right? And it's survival of the fittest in finance and in IT. So if that's the program that sells, that's going to be the one that sells, right? All the kids are going to go get the Steph Curry program, or the Thompson program, or Ray Allen, whatever it is, program.
Exactly. And we made a decision. Yeah, we made a decision really early on. Like, if you buy any audio product, right? You buy your headphones, you buy your TV, you buy your soundbar, it's probably got Dolby Audio in it. And like, we don't all know what Dolby Audio does, but if I've got a soundbar with Dolby Audio and I've got one that doesn't, I'm buying the one that has Dolby Audio, because I know that if that Dolby technology is inside that product, it's a better audio product. So that was always our goal for Asensei, is, we're not going to be you won't go into a store and buy Asensei, but if you're if you're an equipment manufacturer and you're making fitness equipment, or you have a sports coaching app on the App Store, or you have a gym, but you want to bring technology into the facility so you can train athletes for a combine or whatever it is, in all of those different places, our goal is that there's a product and an experience and something that's using our Asensei technology. Because what our technology is essentially doing is, like, just with the camera on the devices you already own, we see you, we know what you're doing, we know how well you're doing it, and then we can use that to create a digital version of a coach. And that coach, they might be on your phone app, they might be on your TV, they might just be like a cloned voice of the coach in your ear, but hey, Kevin, step back a little bit more and turn your hips. Great. Now try again. So you've got that feeling that the coach is in the room. But we do have, customers working in mixed reality and VR, where you put on a headset and there's a life-size coach in the room with you. But now you're not just looking at them; they're kind of virtually looking at you and know what you're doing.
I think that feedback loop of what you're talking about now, it takes it a step higher than how you have guys on Instagram and they're selling a coaching app, where this is different, right? Because they're actually, when you're there doing the squat and you're in the VR, you can actually see the form, how to do it, what you should look like, how your body should feel going up and down while you're doing it, which actually gives the person who's purchased that application a solid foundation that they know the actual basics and the fundamentals of whatever lift they're doing, whether it's a squat or whether it's cleans, which I would never tell people to do. Never do cleans ever. Right? Never do cleans for any reason. Right? Never. There's no need to ever do cleans. I just tell people that. Right? They don't do anything for you. But whatever you're doing, putting on the Asensei program is not just having coaches tell you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more of an educational. And as you're doing it, you're seeing it, and they're seeing you. Right. And if you're wrong, they can tell you, "Hey, look, you're drifting this way. Your body's doing that. Your feet aren't together the right way." Because all those things you need to do to be good at exercise, jiu-jitsu, karate, basketball, football, baseball. It's all about form and technique. And if you can,
right, and if you've ever tried to learn anything physical from a book or from a video, it's impossible. You're a legend in your own mind. You think you're doing exactly what that, the sage on the stage, the person on the screen, you think you're doing exactly what they're doing, but you're not, right? And if it's not interactive, if there's not that expert watching being like, and listen, if I'm coaching you and you're making mistakes, I'm not going to be on you the instant you're wrong. But, hey, you've just done 10, 15 reps of something. I was noticing, when you get tired, you start to kind of tip your shoulders forward, keep your shoulders behind your knees, do 10 more, but do this. And so that's the kind of experience that we're trying to unlock, is that, what you've just done is going to inform what you do next. And we're going to make it feel more like, as a team, we just constantly, look at the whiteboard and like, what's the best imaginable human-to-human coaching experience? Like, who are the best coaches we've worked with? What methods do they employ to kind of help you learn something? And I don't mean like the individual things like stick a towel under your toes or I mean just like the coaching techniques that they use, the way they break things apart and put them back together, or the way they set an intention before you go off and do 10 reps. All those really good practices and kind of coaching, we're able to capture them digitally. And then the great thing about digital, unlike us fallible humans, is consistency, right? It'll consistently coach like that, when you're engaging with the program. So yeah, it's super exciting, and it just means more people get access to higher quality coaching, whether that's sport, whether it's just general fitness. We work with customers in rehabilitation and physical therapy. Like, so you're injured and you want to return to play. And how many of us have gone home with our physical therapy exercises and been like, I can't quite remember what I'm supposed to do and which ones I'm doing and how many reps. So we don't do it and we don't get better as quickly. So, we get to solve all of those problems just by we've made movement something a machine can understand.
Let me ask you this, Steven. What gave you the aha moment of this marriage of sports, fitness, and your company? What made you say, I got to do this?
My wife was better than me at skiing. That's kind of true. Well, it's definitely true that she's better than me. That was kind of the moment. I'd been watching that whole, working in tech and being passionate about sport, like many of us. I was first to go out and buy the shoe pod that Nike had that you could connect to your iPod, the Nike Plus. And now I can, challenge my boss at, who's going to run the most miles in a month. And so I was always just enjoying watching. And then Fitbit came along, and, I was always enjoying watching kind of fitness tech evolve. As a coach, I've always struggled with, especially coaching at a university, right? Your students go away for half the year. They disappear for the summer and they come back in September, October. But they're really into it and they want to train. And when they come back in September, October, there's a tournament in a month and they don't want to not have trained all summer because there's a tournament in a month. And so I'd really wrestled with, how can I keep coaching my club online? I had one of the first websites for karate on the internet back in the mid-90s, where I'm like trying to kind of write my teaching syllabus down, kind of record videos, but have them online. And, so I'd really wrestled with this problem of like, how do you coach people when you're not there in the room with them, but give them access to the knowledge? But when I was at Microsoft, I was at Microsoft, I always remember by Olympics and World Cups. So it was like Rio and the London Olympics, like 2012, 2014. I was working with technologies like Microsoft Kinect, the Xbox camera that could kind of track your skeleton and your movement. You mentioned like Gatorade, they were an Xbox fitness customer. And so I was starting to just kind of see the great thing about working at Microsoft is it's like Aladdin's cave. You get to see all the magic and all the toys that not everyone has seen yet. And I just got this opportunity to know before everyone else, it felt like this is going to happen, like sport and fitness and physical therapy and yoga and Pilates, like all of these things are going to be possible. But, to the skiing, my wife's from Colorado and we used to go ski in Colorado every winter. And, I snowboarded and I lived in Scotland. So let's start there. There's not a ton of snow in Scotland for skiing anyway. But I'd snowboarded and never skied, and I was just frustrated learning to ski. I wasn't learning to ski, but I certainly wasn't managing the black runs that my wife can do from the top of Aspen Mountain. I just had this moment. I was like, you know what? This is it. I wish I had this technology now. I wish somebody could be helping me with my turns and, helping me navigate the ski slope and, telling me what I'm doing well and telling me what I could do better. And it was just, that was the moment where I was like, you know what, I'm going to start this company. I'm going to go away and figure it out. And my, long story short, my CTO, my co-founder of the company, Bill, he thought he'd just wrapped it up. He'd founded a speech recognition, so not movement recognition, a speech recognition company, and he'd done really well with that. He'd taken it public. He'd acquired companies while they were public, and he was kind of semi-retired. He was like, I did that speech recognition thing, and he swore he would never build another company that relied on recognizing what human beings are doing because they're non-predictable. And somehow I convinced Bill, who is an sixth degree martial artist. That's how I knew Bill. I knew him through coaching karate. I was like, I think we can do this movement recognition thing, kind of like you did speech recognition, and that was 10 years ago.
Let me ask you this: do you think this kind of technology can trickle down to youth sports? As you know, youth sports is a huge, gigantic thing as in Europe as in the States, as you know.
Yeah, it already is, and that's our goal. A kind of phrase that I stole from someone else is, how do we take the work of wizards and give it to the mere mortals, right? And so that's what we're all about: is how do we democratize access to this kind of technology? And you're right, for youth sports, there's two things, I think about. There's the opportunity around just skill coaching. Not everyone has got access to, great skill coaches. Sometimes it's your dad or your mom that are trying to kind of pass on a skill, and they maybe weren't that great to begin with. So how can we kind of democratize access to skill coaching? But then also just, agility and mobility and strength training and what should I be doing so that I'm good at the sport? That's a big area for youth sport as well. But I'll give you one example. One of our customers is, are you familiar with Vertimax? They have that kind of vertical jump platform where you kind of...
I actually had one.
You do? Well, you need to download VertiCoach.
Years ago. My son's in college. Well, he's a grown man now, but
right.
We got him when he was younger. And it worked. It worked. But like you said, the thing is, you had to go to someone, right, and let them teach you what to do on the Vertimax, and then go home and make sure you can set up your Vertimax and do it the same way. But you wouldn't know. There was no video, and there was nothing to teach you how to actually use the Vertimax, because there were different straps and different belts and different everything else. But that said, we had to go to a guy named Greg. My son would work out with Greg for 2 hours on a Saturday, right? I would sit down and figure out, okay, he's doing this one, he's putting this belt on him, he's doing this, he's doing that. Then I get home, and if you have the same model, which you may not have, then you have to say, okay, well, son, we're going to do this because this is what you did with him. You do 51 one-leg jumps, actually that's about 2-inch, 2-leg jumps, and then you do some bounding. And then, do what you could do. And, it was fun. I think Dorian started jumping a little bit higher until we learned that dunking really comes from having flexible muscles in your thighs and your abdomen. But that's a different story altogether. So,
well, let me use that. So for those that don't know Vertimax, it's like a platform, and you've got these kind of different cables, stretchable kind of cables that you can clip on. So it's providing you this kind of resistance. You're trying to get pulled back to earth at the same time as you're jumping. So you're developing explosiveness, you're developing that kind of plyometric that you need. And so Vertimax actually worked with a development partner and worked with us to build a companion application called VertiCoach. So you can go and download VertiCoach in the App Store now. And what VertiCoach does is two things. First, it watches you do the jump. And so are your jump mechanics even correct? You know, if you're doing a jump where you're swinging your arms, are you starting the swing of the arms too soon, or are you leaving the ground before the arms have passed your legs? So we can make sure we can coach you into doing the jump correctly and doing the jump well. Simple things like we can just count your jumps. Essentially recognizes that was a countermeasure jump, that was a hands on hips jump, that whatever. So we can kind of log the work that you did. So if a coach is not there, like you're working with a coach, but you're also working at home, the coach can see the volume of training that you did. But here's the magic part with Asensei as well, is we're actually able to measure the vertical displacement from the floor of any point on the body. So whether we want to know what's the lowest point of the body that cleared the ground, combine, what's the highest point, the tip of the finger, how high did it get? Or maybe it's center of mass. For a lot of jump sports, you'll kind of like use center of mass as your ongoing measure of progress. So, and if you want to get more vertical, we can then give you the feedback as to like, well, what could you do to get more vertical? Swing your arms more, or bend your legs more, or, you know, don't, whatever. I'm not a jump coach, just play one on TV. But, you know, that's what we're able to. And so now you've got this like physical product. It doesn't have any batteries in it, doesn't have a Bluetooth connection, doesn't have cameras and AI, but just with your smartphone camera, your parent or your friend can set it up in front of your Vertimax. And now we've made it this like digital coaching product. So so that's just a great example of, you know, to your point, Kevin.
I wish you were around when I first got my Vertimax so many years ago. So I do wish you were, because that was an expensive proposition.
I was, but AI wasn't. So it's not
for sure.
Oh, so let me ask you this, Steven. What was the moment that you talked about? Did you instantly know it was this was a viable business when you did this, or was there some bumps, some failures? You know, sometimes, you know, people like yourselves, you know, you go through these things. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, is it a viable business? I mean, before we even got to is this a viable business, we had a whole probably a couple of years of like, is this even viable from a technology perspective, right? Gotcha. Like, you know, I'm at Microsoft, you know, life will be good if I stay there. You know, you make good money at Microsoft. It's you think you're working hard, but you've never worked for a startup before. And so, you know, I had this moment of like, is this even technically possible? Can we teach a machine to recognize someone's skeleton? Because that's the first thing we do, is we get a picture of your skeleton in 3D in real time. And then can we teach a machine to what is that skeleton doing and how well is it doing it? So, you know, my co-founders, there's Bill that I mentioned, there's my old flatmate from university, Ross. Like Ross and I were at uni together. The three of us spent a couple of years where, you know, we had no idea what the business model or the go-to-market was going to be yet. We were still like, is it sensors? Is it smart clothing? Is it cameras? Is it computer vision? Like, you know, how are we going to solve the problem? And can we solve the problem? And then once we'd done that, we, you know, like I mentioned, our goal was to be like a Dolby, right? We wanted to be this kind of product that lived inside other people's products. But before we did that, we kind of felt we should probably spend a little bit time closer to the athlete, closer to the governing body, closer to the equipment providers. So we picked a sport where we were like, you know, let's use Asensei's technology, but let's go direct to market and let's spend time with the end customer. And so, you know, through a McKinsey consulting style process, we were like, let's find a sport that's like small enough for us to be a leader in, but big enough to be material if we're right, and where there's adjacent sports that would allow us to grow and grow. So weirdly, perhaps, we landed on indoor rowing, and we're like, indoor rowing, like it's not like, even rowing is a niche, but we picked the indoor part of rowing as the niche, right? And this is before Hydro and Ergata and Aviron, and like there's a million rowing companies out there now. Like, we didn't know rowing was going to necessarily explode as a you know, connected fitness modality. But we worked with Olympic athletes. We worked with governing bodies like British Rowing. We worked with, there you go. It's our old rowing app. And so we put this app in the App Store, and we just learned like what the consumers want. What are the experiences that they like? What are the things that keep them motivated and engaged? And so this was only ever meant to be a short trial for us. We put this app in the App Store. I don't even know now, but it's been downloaded hundreds of thousands of times. It's done, millions of dollars of revenue. It's still in the App Store, although we try to like not confuse people by thinking this is what Asensei is. It's kind of like a side project at this point. Right. But then it was Kevin, to answer your question, like when did we know that like the moment of urgency was really the pandemic, when everything shut down. Suddenly you couldn't find a kettlebell online, you couldn't, everybody was working out at home.
I remember.
People are going in for surgeries and people need physical therapy and rehab, but like they don't want to go into hospitals and get, it was just this moment of like, holy shit, like if we had this technology in everybody's products now, like we can skip a few steps. And so the pandemic really was this, rallying cry of like, we've got to go faster, sooner, and get this technology into the shape it needs to be in so that other people can put it in their products. And so we were in market kind of end of 21, beginning in 2022. That's when people were, and then the business model, listen, you figure it out as you go. What are the problems you're solving and how much value are you creating and how much value can you capture? But in terms of challenges, there was a pandemic.
So quick question. So the rowing application, did Peloton and these other companies, were they accepting to, having your guys essentially tell folks, hey, okay, you got the Peloton, they give you some instructions, but hey, we can really help you if rowing is your game and that's you want the physical benefits of rowing. If you look at this application, regardless of what machine you're on, we got you. We can help you.
Right around that time, I talk about, I kind of look at the market. I talk about the pioneers, the digital natives, and the legacy brands. And the pioneers for me are the Pelotons, the Tonals, the Hydros, the ones that kind of went first, and everyone was like, "That's stupid! Like, who wants a bike with a screen on it?" Right? So those are the pioneers. The digital natives, I think of as these are the guys that call themselves the Peloton of X, right? We're like Peloton, but boxing, or we're like Peloton, but Pilates. So from day zero, they're thinking about it's got a screen and it's, it can have, form tracking. And then there's the legacy brands, the Power Blocks and the Vertimaxes, and they've been in the industry for forever. And like, are they going to be like Blockbuster and BlackBerry and Kodak and be like, oh, technology is never going to happen to us? Or are they going to reinvent and reimagine themselves and become like Netflix? Like, we don't need DVD in the mail anymore. We'll do it all online. And so to answer your question, the pioneers, they were really well positioned in the pandemic because, they were just at that point of they'd figured everything out. And so now their only problem was like, we just can't get stuff on planes quickly enough and into customers' homes easily enough. So I think at that time it was less about let's add new features, and for those companies it was more about like how can we just ship product. I mean, I've heard anecdotes that Peloton were literally filling, the seats that you would have booked on a plane, had bikes on them, right? Cargo planes. But we did see at that time, so Peloton, they tried to add form tracking to the rowing machine. There was a simple version of form tracking added to the rowing machine because they recognized, we've brought out a bike and we brought out a treadmill, and like everyone knows how to run. Since saber-toothed tigers were chasing us, we knew how to run. Biking, that's a skill we all learn as kids. But rowing, that's a pretty unnatural movement that nobody knows how to do, so it needs taught. We saw other companies like Tonal. Tonal were like, let's experiment. If you don't know Tonal, it's a strength training machine. It goes on your wall. It's like they call it a digital strength machine. There's cables with magnetic resistance. Amazing product. And so Tonal started experimenting. So you saw everybody starting to experiment. And what's happened now is it's price of admission. Any new product that's coming to market, you go and watch any new digital connected fitness product, and they're saying that it's going to have form tracking. Tonal, I can't say anything much more than this, but Tonal became a customer of ours recently, because there comes a point where, why would we build something like, if you're Sony or Samsung and you're building a TV, you don't go away and invent your own surround sound technology. You use Dolby.
Right.
You don't go and invent your own speech recognition for your remote control. You use a provider. And so that was always our view, Kevin, was like, if we're in market with technology, once enough people figure out, like, we need that, like, movement recognition stuff, we need that coaching stuff, they'll come to us for it. They'll stop trying to do it themselves. So yeah, that's kind of where the industry is right now. And interestingly, the healthcare market was a little bit of a step ahead. Some of the big players in kind of remote physical therapy and remote healthcare, like Hinge Health and Sword Health, they went out and acquired AI computer vision companies, because they realized, like, if we can take PT home and let people do it at home, more people will do it and more people will go through it. And so it's, we're playing in that space as well. We're picking up a lot of customers in virtual physical therapy, where we want to make sure when you go home, you know what you're doing. We help you if you're stuck. And quite frankly, we let the insurance company know that you did it, because that's how reimbursement works, and that's how you drive down the cost of care. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Your computer learning, as your system does this learning, what have been your I guess your wins? And because computer learning is probably the biggest thing right now, right? Everybody says it's AI. It's not necessarily AI. It's computer learning, system learning, right? So your system knows something one day, and then the next day it knows more because it watches what you do. I do that with OCRs now, right? So what are your what have you seen from the physical perspective? Like you alluded to earlier, you want the computer or your system to be able to learn what the body is doing right now and what it needs to do to go forward.
Yeah, we took a very different and unconventional approach to it, which is why we've become the market leader. So, let's use Peloton as an example. They had a product called the Peloton Guide. So it was like almost like a set-top box. You'd plug it into your TV, it would sit under the TV. And they took an approach with the Peloton Guide. It was very consistent with how other companies at the time, there was another company called Tempo, which is, AI is getting to a place where, if we feed enough videos of somebody doing something to a machine, and we show the machine enough examples of that, someone doing a squat, and we tell the machine that was a squat, eventually you can show the machine a video of someone doing a squat that it hasn't seen before, and it recognizes what it looks similar to, and goes, that's a squat. And so that's the machine learning approach to recognizing movement. And the theory is, and I love that phrase, that saying, the difference between theory and practice is that in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice. And so the theory is that, you can play that one back, but the theory is that, if I just need to feed in lots and lots of videos of people doing things, and we'll be able to recognize it. But the problem with that is the video didn't encapsulate the knowledge and the know-how of the coaches that taught the person in that video how to do it. Right, all that coaching knowledge and all that understanding is lost by the time you see somebody doing it in a video. So we take a very different approach. We actually allow coaches and sports coaches and trainers and experts to describe very simply to us or to the machine, how is that exercise performed? And it's all about biomechanics, and it's all about sequence. Like if any of you were to coach me anything you're skilled at, how would you coach me? What would you say? You'd be like, okay, I want your feet square. Good. Now step your foot back. Great. Elbow in here. Now pull it across a bit. Bring it down a little bit. So we're constantly nudging ourselves into postures. And then once we're in postures, we're teaching you how to move through a sequence from one posture to the next, whether that's to complete a free throw, or it's to throw a roundhouse kick, or it's to pitch a baseball. We're just going through a bunch of kind of still sequences like a stroboscopic photograph. And so that's how we tackle the problem. And so we can sit down with an Olympic rowing coach, or we can sit down with a strength coach and say, how do you want this movement coached? What does good look like? What does bad look like? And then I talk about it as like white belt to black belt. As a white belt, I'm just happy if you've got, the right foot forward and you're throwing the correct hand. And I don't care if it's going to the head instead of the body, or your elbows coming up. Like, I'm just delighted that that you've started your journey. But over time as a coach, how am I going to refine that punch, that technique? One by one, I'll pick something to improve. Or one by one, I'll pick something to remove. Maybe you're telegraphing that punch with your other hand, or maybe you're bouncing when I want your hips stable. And so I'm either taking things away that are bad technique, or I'm adding in layers of nuance of good technique. And that's how Asensei works.
But
So
long
story short, we took this totally radically different way to explaining movement to machine, so that we're not getting rid of coaches. We're just allowing them to scale their know-how to more and more people.
And it's real personal too. So you're speaking directly to the client that has it, rather than to an entire class of kids. It's you, and hey, your foot's not this. Let's try this, or your arms like this.
Right.
And this is my last question because I got to go set up for my meeting. The NFL. For years on television, and they used to have it, I think, halftime of games, and they would always show the new advances in kind of what you're doing, AI and helping football athletes catch balls, run this way, arms this way, taking videos of what they do, showing them, how they are doing it and not doing it. So I saw in your bio the NFL was included. I just wanted to ask, well, NASA, even bigger than that, was included, but the NFL was included, and I just want to get your take on what exactly did you guys do with the NFL, and is there anything?
Yeah, so just to be clear, when I worked with the NFL, that was before I started Asensei.
Okay.
I ran a technology, but this is still cool. I ran the technology and user experience design team for Adobe's consulting organization.
Okay.
So Adobe, we would consult. So the NFL came to us and asked us, could we put Sunday Night Football online? This was before, so it was the first time football had ever been broadcast through a browser. I was still in the UK at the time, so I'm on a VPN, kind of pretending I'm in San Jose, California, so I can. I hope the NFL don't watch the show.
We have to talk. I've had projects and I've had whole teams that were supposed to be in one country and they were in another country.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I want to watch the inaugural Sunday Night Football, and it's IP blocking me because I'm in Scotland. So I'm like VPN to San Jose. But we built Sunday Night Football, so you had multiple camera angles. You could choose your own camera angle. There was stats scrolling by. I mean, now that's common knowledge, but this has got to be like, I can't even remember, probably, I don't know, 2005, 2006. It was early. And, the team, I had the privilege of leading the team, but the team did all the hard work, and they won a Communication Arts Award for that work.
Congratulations.
So it was really early in the days of like, how can we improve fan engagement around sport by just making it more interactive. And as we all know, you watch sport with friends, and you watch sport and you watch it with another screen in your hand. It's always a two-screen experience, not a one-screen experience.
Good enough. I'm an IT guy, so I was just asking. This is all really interesting to me, man, and hopefully one day, we can talk. As we say in the hood, chop it up about some other stuff that's me as a program manager. That sounds really interesting. Just for me, it's always advice. Continuous improvement. How you got that project through? How did you do that? Those are my things that would bore everybody else here. But man, I thank you for coming to talk to us. I do apologize. I have another meeting I have to get ready for. Again, Kevin, thank you. Steven, thank you. You guys have a marvelous day. All right. Take care.
Awesome. Take care.
And that's the DA. He had to go. Steven, let me just dive into this real quick before you have to go. You led the University of Edinburgh, right? To 10 straight national championships. What was the secret sauce for that consistent winning culture? How did you do that?
I love that you asked that. Simplicity and unorthodoxy. And I'll tell you why. So the year I took over the club was almost over. We hadn't actually competed in competition for a good 2 or 3 years. And so, most students are on a 4-year cycle. So most of the people sitting in that club had never been in a competition before, or maybe on just a club level. And the university asked me if I would take over coaching the club. And the national championships were like 2 or 3 weeks away. And so I told the club, we're going. everybody's entering. I've got you. And it's a learning experience. We're not going there to win. We're going there so that the next year it's familiar to us and we've done it before. And we predictably got our asses handed to us in the competition. I think we won a couple of medals. But I think the guys that won those medals, they didn't learn to fight from me. They learned somewhere else. But as said on the bus home, I remember the tournament that year was in Glasgow in Scotland. And I remember coming back on the bus saying, we did something really hard. We did something really uncomfortable. And we learned from it. And next year, we're going to win the entire tournament. We're going to be the best club at the tournament. And I was like, how are we going to do that? And so long story short, again, I told the club for competition, for general karate classes, I'll teach you lots of repertoire. I'll teach you lots of things, throws and punches and kicks, and we'll mix up and we'll have fun. But when we step on the mat for a match, when it's a match, you're only allowed to throw one technique. I don't want to see your feet coming off the ground trying to throw kicks. I don't want to see you doing fancy combinations, reverse punch. And I trained the entire club how to win a match with just a reverse punch. And that allowed me to not so much focus on the technique, but focus on tactic. So timing, when do you throw the punch? Distancing, how do you get to the right distance that it'll always land? How do you make sure the referee's always on the right side so he or she sees the punch and it's not blocked by your opponent from their vision? And so we just had this club that were a machine, and it was really boring for others to watch, but for us, we were winning first, second, and third spot, like gold, silver, and bronze in every category. We won the event that year, and I said, let's win 3. We won 3, and I said, let's win 10. And we won 10. So yeah, simplicity.
I think what you said says a lot. Simplicity is definitely sometimes the key, because I think as human beings, we overthink stuff and we just keep it simple. What are the things that has gotten us here? And you alluded to it so greatly with that. So kudos to you. How was it with the with that winning culture? Do you think you have you brought that sort of kind of mindset, I guess, into the business realm of where you're at now?
I mean, 1,000%. My CTO now, Bill, he gave me a book while I was a coach. And I was already, while I was coaching, I was also building my first business. I built a software company that I sold to Adobe. That's how I ended up at Adobe. So I was already like an entrepreneur and a martial arts coach. And Bill gave me a book called Winning. And Winning is by a gentleman called Sir Clive Woodward. And he was the England rugby coach. And the coach for the team that went to Australia and just destroyed the Australians like on their home turf in the World Cup. So really famous time for English rugby. And interestingly, that book, he was a very successful business owner and IT professional. And the culture of England rugby came from how he ran his companies. He took all the best practices from how do you build a business and how do you build teams. And he applied that culture. And it's become a very famous culture. The book's all about the culture, if you like. And so that book was my blueprint for my karate club. And then it became the blueprint for my company at the same time. And so the way I build teams, the way I set vision, the way I think about like what's possible, just so much of my life is just this intermesh of, as we like to say sometimes on these podcasts, if you can unlock someone's athletic potential, you unlock their human potential. You show somebody what they're capable of through sport. You show them what they're capable of, in life. And so, yeah, that's definitely how I like to think. I tackle myself, I tackle my team, I tackle my company, and I encourage others to tackle themselves.
What's the name of the book? Because I'm absolutely going to put that in the description.
It's called Winning.
Okay.
And I think it's out of print, but you can get it on eBay for like pennies. When we had our first board meeting of Asensei, the first time we raised funding, and we held a board meeting with our new investors, we gave every investor a copy of the book. We're like, this is our culture.
Wow. That's definitely phenomenal. You've been an athlete, a coach, a technologist, and CEO now. Which role has taught you the hardest lessons, you think?
They're just different lessons, right? They're all hard. They're all hard. The CEO one's hard. Building a startup is it's a 10-year commitment. So I think
What?
when you're an athlete or a coach, you can always quit. You're always fighting that stopping voice in your head. And I saw an infographic recently that was like this flat line, and then it says you quit here, and then it goes flat for like a heartbeat later, and then it goes through the roof. You quit just before things would have taken off, right? And as an athlete and a coach, I think that's what it's like. It's like you're the one telling yourself to stay in the game. As a CEO of a venture-backed company, you've taken millions of dollars from people. You've built a team. You've got staff who are relying on the paycheck that you give them every month. It's different. You're not allowed to have that stopping voice kind of giving you any doubt. So does that make it harder or does that make it easier? I don't know, but it definitely makes it different.
Gotcha. What's your favorite sport?
Favorite sport? I'm going to give you an orthodox answer. I mean, obviously, I love combat sports because I understand deeply the technicality of it. But my favorite sport is actually tentpole events. Like I love the Olympics. I love a World Cup. I love the Final Four. And I think why is I love just seeing human beings at the pinnacle of their performance when there's so much on the line. And I just, I think I enjoy the spectacle of it. Although I will say the other sport that I just love to watch, and I've completely changed the way I watch it, is Formula One. Because Formula One is just it's technology meets human performance. Yes. It's teams and individuals. It's drama. And it was a very good, when you're in the UK, the Formula One races are all organized to be at prime viewing time on a Sunday afternoon in the UK. So I watched Formula One in the UK as a Sunday off. Your mates would come over, you have a few beers, you cook, Sunday roast and watch the Formula One. In the US, it's now like, don't tell me anything that's going on in this season because I want to watch it on Netflix when the next season comes out on Netflix.
I was about to say that because everybody's talking about. I live in South Florida, man, so they have one of the races down here,
that's right,
in Hard Rock Stadium, which they did a good job of making the race course around the stadium. And once everybody, I was like, well, let me just watch the Netflix thing. And once I started watching the Netflix thing, I've been actually hooked, man, and watching Formula One. So, man, shout out to Formula One. Yeah. Gotcha.
I think that format of, and when we worked in rowing as well, I used to say that about rowing. It's like rowing is just like on the surface of it, one of the most boring things to watch, right? Unless you're deep into rowing as a spectator, it's like watching greyhound racing. But if you were to actually be inside the process of training to show up on that start line, it's just incredible. And I want to see the drive to survive of rowing. That's my ask of Netflix.
Okay, well, there's a market for everything, and who knows, especially with you guys bringing light to it. What's your vision for Asensei within the next 5 years?
Within the next 5 years, I mean, in this game, it's hard to predict a year ahead. But we never mistake a clear line of sight for a short vision, right? It's we've always been of the opinion that there will be a moment in time where every product that you purchase that in any way is about you improving human movement, whether that's physical therapy, whether that's fitness, whether that's sport, that there will, Asensei will be in the majority of the products. That's the vision now. It's like distribution and scale. It's not, I could talk AI and technology for days and we'll continue to stay ahead of the curve. And, we're moving towards, it's still quite far in front of us, but we're moving towards a world where, we're not putting on VR headsets, we're putting on our Oakleys. And there's a augmented reality in front of us, and I expect us to be in that space. But I want all of our kids learning fitness and sport, augmented with amazing coaches in our local community, but supported by Asensei. That's our vision.
And this will be our last question. Any personal goals that you want to hit? Can you hear me, Steven?
Yes, but I can't, I'm just someone that's always about, I could get down to micro goals, like, we've got a goal. My son and I've got an 11-year-old boy, and we have a goal this year to take our first photograph of the Milky Way together. It's just a micro goal, but when you unpack that goal, that's I want to have something that he and I do together that neither of us can do, that's fun, that we figure out, that's kind of technology. I want him to be like amazed at the sky above him, a whole bunch of things, but it comes down to just like one really simple goal. And last night, because we're having a meteor shower here, right, in California, the Perseid. So last night we were out setting up the camera, and I haven't looked yet, but we took 700 photos overnight to see if we could catch a meteor, and we'll see if we got one or not later tonight. But yeah, I have those micro goals, and then I just have bigger goals for, where I want to be in my life. But yeah, it's a hard question. I don't have a great answer.
Nah, man, that's good, man. Man, this has been really great, man. I know you have to go, man, but we're gonna have to come back on again, because
I love that. Yeah,
DA, like you say, he's a project manager. He likes all the geeky stuff and all that stuff, and man, this has been real great, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a round of applause for our guest today, Mr. Steven Webster.
Thanks, man.
Any last words before we get out of here for you?
No, I appreciate what you guys are doing. I think, sport's important. It's people treat it as frivolous, like entertainment, but I think it's important, encouraging people to participate in the positive messages it sends, whether you're watching it or participating in it. And I really appreciate anyone that's promoting it.
Yeah, that's what we try to do over here at the Sports Chasers, man. And like I said, I love stories like yourself. So like I said, when you reached out to us, I said, man, this will be great. We actually have other people like yourselves with the sports and the technical side and the fitness, man, just meshing together. Because like you said, whether you're playing it or you're just, at the house, maybe you need to be rehabilitated because you're a pickleball player and you hurt yourself. Shout out to all the pickleball players.
Yeah, that's happening a lot right now.
You're out there hurting your Achilles, man. But
my co-founder did exactly that. He rolled his Achilles tendon up the back of his leg, just getting a little bit too adventurous on the pickleball court. We're all legends in our own minds.
Listen, we're gonna get on out of here, man. Thank you, Steven, so much for coming through, and this was great, man. And listen, we're getting on out of here. On behalf of myself, I'm Kevin O'Warren, your host and moderator. For our guest, Steven Webster, for DA, who's just had the lead, man. This is the Sports Chasers podcast. Y'all be good, be great. Steven, hang on, don't go nowhere. Hey, y'all have a great day. Take care. We'll see y'all later. Peace.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Sports Chasers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, and connect with us on all social media channels for exclusive content and updates. We'd also love for you to join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of the Sports Chasers community. And remember to tune in next time for some more real sports talk. Until then, stay frosty.